Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry, that wasn't me. This is Romanian Christian Grills Muslim with Difficult Questions, Part 2. Well, it didn't say Part 2, but this is Part 2. Spoiler, that's the Romanian Christian. I lied in the first video. Oh, it's doing this again. Before we go any further, if you can click that thumbs up, bare minimum. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Click on the thanks button if you want to donate to the channel. All right?
Right.
That is why these three things are mentioned. But nobody is saying the three things are equated to one another. Most scholars in Islamic history have understood it in that way. And like I said to you, it's not even logic. Because I could apply that statement to so many different things. Just because so many things do the same thing does not mean all of these things are equal. That's not logic.
Right. So then by logic then would you be able to apply like if anything, I guess like if anything that's distracting or makes noise or whatever walks in front of you or is present during the prayer, then it would also cut it?
Yeah, if anything, yeah, there are things, but the Prophet mentions common things, especially at that time. Like
I guess at
people
that time,
didn't pray.
right.
Yeah, people didn't pray. Of course, he's mentioning this. People at that time, you understood, they didn't have like all of these buildings that we have and clean roads.
Right.
They would pray, and that's why there's narrations about like it was, I think, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he was passing with his horse while the believers are praying in rows. He's going with his horse. Like the people at that time, they would pray.
It's more, as he said, there are buildings and all that kind of places where you can go and pray. It's more about being aware, where if you're praying and a dog runs in front of you and you look up at that dog, you might be, as he said in the other one, you might stop your prayer and then look at that dog like, okay, is that dog coming over here? Do I have to fight this dog? You know, you're doing the prayer and a woman walks by and you know, maybe a little too close and you're kind of like, hey, what are you doing? A donkey. I don't know much about donkeys other than they could be nice or dangerous. So you got to keep your head on a swivel, as they say. So it's just don't allow yourself to be distracted. And if these things happen, restart your prayer because you were distracted enough to stop. So you're going to have to redo the whole thing. That's just how I take it.
In the desert, they'll pray in anywhere they can. Anything can pass in front of you.
Right.
Any animal can pass in front of you. Any human being can cross in front of you. Anything can happen. So, of course, these things needs to be contextualized. Now, before we go to something else, now I'm going to apply now the consistency kind of thing I asked you in the beginning.
Sure.
Now, if a person is a defender of women, how does the Bible describe women? Because you had an issue when you with things which are clearly metaphorical and not only applicable to women, but applicable to everyone. Now, specifically applicable to women will have things in the Bible. For instance, the Bible will say that the woman is the reason for the original sin. She is to blame. She is the fault, the whole fault. And the man comes first, and she should remain silent. Shouldn't teach. She shouldn't assume any authority over a man. She should remain quiet.
Right.
And she shouldn't teach. Now,
she should remain quiet. Every single time I go to work and, you know, there are other women around, I'm just like, shh, no talking. I'm just joking. I don't do that.
Now, Islam doesn't teach that. So Islam is very clear that the sin was both Adam and Eve. The blame was both Adam and Eve from God. Repentance was for both of them. And the pain in pregnancy is a punishment for women in Christianity because of the Eve.
Right.
In the same chapter. And in Islam, women can teach. And they have been teaching. And they have been doing even things like narrating, which is even a higher level. So now, how are you okay with that in Christianity, but perhaps can have an issue, something that can be metaphorical like this in an Islam point of view, if you're like, you know, supportive of women?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess I'm engaging in some sort of hypocrisy in that sense, because if I look at everything like Christianity, like I would instantly assume, you know, metaphor and whatnot, but then I guess I look at it more like I scrutinize it
But
more.
these are not metaphors, though.
That's true.
In the case I gave you, it's clearly a metaphor. Nobody can argue against that for sure.
Yeah.
But in the case that you presented, we know these are all literal things. It's literally Adam and
That's
Eve
true.
in the garden and the serpent. None of this is metaphorical.
I guess I don't know. To be honest with you, I guess like it's just kind.
Because no one wants to be a part of a religion and feel like they're wrong. So, if you have committed to Christianity, you accept things more in what your religion says, but you're more willing to question other religions. I think that that's just something that mostly all religions will do. They'll question other things. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Let me rephrase that. There's nothing wrong with questioning, but there is something wrong if you overlook the questions that are posed in your own religion and you just chalk that up to, well, it's okay because, and then you just give some really nothing answer. And it's like, you really demanded a lot of the other two, but you're willing to accept bare minimum. Like you should scrutinize it. If you really have issues, scrutinize it. And scrutinize everything equally with like the same, I want to say aggressiveness, but the same demand for an answer. And if you're getting answers that seem credible from one that aren't your own, then maybe look at, they're giving me what I want on this one. They're giving me answers. If that's what the goal is, this is giving me answers. And maybe that'll open you up a little bit more.
Have been
No worries.
taught
No
since
worries.
birth and
Look,
can
I
just
only
believe
asked the question. I don't need the answer from you. I
right,
asked the question to highlight that we sometimes can engage in certain biases without realizing. That's it.
right,
So I'm highlighting. That's why I said I asked you that question in the beginning for that reason, to highlight
right.
for you that there are things way worse. There's no problem in Islam. I can answer anything you'll bring. But with Christianity, I can show you how there are things way more terrible and horrible that nobody will talk about. Like, the Old
Right.
Testament talks about selling your own daughter as a slave.
No, yeah,
Like-
I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
those.
Okay. All right. So what else do you other hadith? But you see, this is the thing with hadith. I'll tell you,
But that what he yeah I've seen that. I've seen that. Yeah. It's almost like we don't talk about that though, but you should.
something else. Before
Sure.
we present, the thing with hadith is this: it's not like
Yeah.
the Quran. From what sense? It requires a lot of contextualization.
Mhm.
Because hadith can be what? An incident can happen. A narrator can only narrate part of this incident.
Right.
He can forget the context. He can forget the rest of the statement that was said. He can just report a part that he found relevant.
Right.
Now, when we combine narrations, we bring other narrators completing the context. And also narrators can narrate with meaning. So sometimes they can give a meaning that when you have another narration, you realize what the meaning actually intended is. The Prophet didn't exactly use that specific word. He used a similar word. But when you combine the narrations, you realize. And then you have other narrations mentioning context. Okay, so this is in that context. And this is referring to this specific thing. And that's why it takes scholar years. Like these things I'm telling you, like I don't just like open that book of hadith and I find all of these things. No, I have to open the books of explanations of hadith. And I have to study those. I have to go to Fath al-Bari by Ibn Hajar, for example, where he explains the full of Bukhari. I have to go to the Nawawi Sharh of Muslim, where he explains all of these narrations that are in the book, all of them, and he will combine the different narrations. Each book of hadith have an explanation like this. And that's how we come to an understanding and conclusion based on years of study and dedication. So that's why approaching hadith with a lens of just reading it in isolation will always, of course, bring problems. Not to mention, of course, the weakening of the narration, all of that. But yeah, go ahead. What else have you come across that is like preventing you from taking that step of being a Muslim?
I guess another one I had. I mean, you probably heard this one a lot before. Is saying that like when the Prophet was talking about, like, he was asked, isn't the witness of a woman equal to half of a man? And then he said yes, because of the deficiency of a woman's mind. I read explanations of it, explaining like what the deficiency he was
but the
referring
hadith
to.
explains the deficiency.
Oh.
Maybe you haven't read it fully then. That's the point I was making about reading the full hadith in context.
I guess not, yeah.
So the Prophet says the deficiency because he was asked, what is the deficiency?
Okay.
He said the deficiency is in testimony. Deficiency
Right.
is not the right word, by the way, which I'm going to also talk about that. But he said the reduction, which is the right word I would use, because it says naqs, to reduce
Right.
from something. Like Allah says in the Quran, ننقصها, about the ard, al-ard ننقصها من أطرافها. We reduce it from its parts. So
Right.
reduction. Okay, so he says reduction in testimony. That is the reduction in the mind, the testimony. And the other reduction in the religion, which is that she basically, in menstruation or whatever, she doesn't have to pray and do religious obligation. So the hadith already responds to these things. So it doesn't mean that the hadith is not saying, the Prophet already explained. He's not like saying that they're less intelligent or that they're, for example, more sinners than men or less, righteous servants or whatever. No, he said this is what we mean. But the reduction, do you know what kind of reduction this is? That naqs?
Was it in memory or no?
No. I mean, when the Prophet says a reduction in something, he's referring to a reduction in responsibility, actually. Do you know why it's a reduction in responsibility?
Well, yeah, because the women have less like responsibility because of like their during the holy month, because of their menstruation and whatnot. No, like they don't have to pray.
Not only that, but even in the testimony is a responsibility. Why? Because false testimony means you will be lashed. It's like if you require four people to testify and 3 say something and 1 doesn't,
right,
they'll all be lashed.
I see.
False testimony in Islam is not a joke. Like false testimony, you cannot just come and falsely testify to something.
Right.
So this is a reduction in responsibility.
All 4 of them would be lashed. If 3 had one story and 1 had something different, all 4 of them would be lashed? Or do you lash the 3 and not the 1? I mean, all 4 sounds, because someone's lying, so I can understand lashing all 4. But yeah, I've never heard that. But I mean, it sounds legit. Yeah. If we don't get the why is it the word just left my brain? The truth. Wow. If we don't get the truth, then you get lashed. This is what I would say. Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because I came here to lie, but now I'm going to tell the truth. I wouldn't actually say that.
I see.
It's not a reduction in a way which insults women in any way, for sure.
I see. Appreciate that. Yeah, I have like some other dumb ones, I think, but I think I need to like take some more time and apply the kind of understanding that you were talking about and put more effort into looking at their context and whatnot. Because yeah, if you just look at it out of context or don't understand like where it was said, then yeah, you can arrive to these outcomes that don't exist but exist in your head, and then you make your own conclusion from them. So
yeah, and many people, by the way, have this issue today. By the way, it's not just you. There's many people who say, "Oh, just follow the Quran alone today," and all of this stuff. Why? It's easier, and I don't see you doing that, by the way. But it's easier to be a lazy person.
Right.
Meaning, I have an issue with this, reject it. The hadith doesn't make sense to you. I'm gonna reject all of it wholesale. Right. Okay, but how are you gonna pray? No, I'm gonna take the part that I like, which is how to pray, how to fast. Like, okay, so is it authentic? Is it not authentic? Is it reliable or not? Is it historically accurate or not? So it's easier, especially in this day and age. People just go, and I made a video. You just go to AI. Oh, how can I do this? That's it. Like nobody really wants to read a book anymore. Nobody wants to ask the person of knowledge anymore. So a lot of people can take that route. Also, there's another route. Maybe there's a narration is very popular that people misuse against Islam. Yeah. Okay, I don't want to be defensive with that. Oh, I reject this. This is not authentic. No, the religion is not a game. It's not our game. It's not like my backyard where I take what I want and I put what I want. This is God's revelation. And since it's God's revelation, there is no doubt that every single thing he taught is wise and has an answer.
Right.
There's no doubt to that. And I always challenge, look, I've been doing live streams for years. And people come. Look, I cannot possibly know what you're gonna break.
Right.
I can't. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But in the end, I know whatever it is, because Islam is the perfect religion, it will have a response. I know that. And we've been demonstrating that, not just me, but other brothers for years. So now I'm going to ask you this, right? Since whatever left is dumb ones and whatever, why not take that step then? If the Quran makes sense to you, you read it, the majority of the hadith that you read, I can tell you tons of hadith that I'm sure that you will say this is the most wise thing you can hear.
Yeah.
The Prophet's teachings and narrations. Like
Yeah.
one of you does not become a believer until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Prophet said, you're not a believer if your neighbor sleeps hungry and you are full. Prophet mentions that from the perfection of your faith that you leave that which is not of your business. Prophet talks about richness, and he says the true richness is the richness of the heart, not money. Prophet makes these examples and parables to his companions where he says, do you know who's the bankrupt person? And they
Right.
say the bankrupt person is the one who doesn't have money.
Mm-hmm.
He says to them,
Right.
no, the bankrupt person is the one who prays, gives charity. How is he bankrupt? He gives charity, prays, he does all of that. But he goes, curses this person, insults that person, which is we have so many people like this. They pray and do the rights of God and they leave the rights of human beings. So
Right.
if you look at the narrations, you can see the wisdom. I don't obviously need to explain that. The wisdom of the Prophet, which is a revelation from God in the end. As Allah says, He doesn't speak of His own. It's only revelation being given to Him. وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. This is the truth. So what's then... I would encourage you to take the step. Of course, you can take your time if you want. This is not like, this is just a suggestion, an invitation. Like you said, a friendly invitation. Like imagine me inviting you to my wedding or something. It's a friendly invitation. And it's up to you to act upon it or not. But if these are really the issues, then I don't see them as big issues.
Right.
And I wish guidance for you.
I appreciate
Since you see that the Quran makes sense to you. So if you want, you can. Or if you want more research, you're welcome. And you're welcome to come back anytime, of course.
Yeah, no, I probably, to be honest, I even spoke about it with my family because, my family, I guess you could say they're quote unquote Christians, but they don't, it was probably just because, in Romania, you grow up and then it's kind of instilled in you, right? Like 99% of the country is Orthodox. So it's kind of just instilled in them. And you ask them what they believe. Well, they believe it because they were told it. And I spoke to them about, the potential of converting and whatnot, but they're like, they're obviously
I can imagine
and whatever.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, when we'd go to church, the priest, yeah, it was an exorcism. The minister would say something, and I would say to my mom, is that true? And she would go, yes, it is. And so on the way back, I would always say stuff like, I would bring up whatever it was. I remember one in particular, he was talking about all the money that King Solomon had. And he's going on and on. So on the way back, I said to my mom, I was asking her about the money and da-da-da-da. And how do we know it's true? And she goes, well, it's in the Bible. And I said, okay, but how do we know it's true? And she goes, well, he said it. And I go, again, how do we know it's true? And she goes, I don't know what you mean. And I said, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something goofy. And I was like, King Solomon invented electricity and lived in a pyramid. And it was the first pyramid that had full electricity, lights, and he had one single fireplace in the center of the pyramid, and it went right out of the top. That's where the smokestack was. And it was, something stupid like that. And she just looked at me and she goes, what are you talking about? And I go, that's a fact. And she's like, where did you get that from? And I said, it doesn't matter. I just said it. So it's got to be true. And she just, no. And I go, well, how can you say that what I'm saying is wrong, but what somebody else is saying is right when you don't know? You're taking one person on belief, but she had never read the Bible. You're taking this person on belief, but you're calling me a liar. How does that make sense? She didn't. She was like, because. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
I honestly, I would assume deep in their hearts, they would be fine with it, but obviously they'd be initially disappointed and whatever. But I've been trying my best, honestly. I was talking with my mom a couple of days ago. I was genuinely trying to, we were in a car ride and I was explaining Islam and whatnot because she, had she was never exposed to it and whatnot. So I was just trying to expose in that thing to kind of get her to understand it more and whatnot. So I'm gonna finish reading the Quran again. I'm mid reading it right now, and honestly, I think, I don't know. I hope Allah will guide me, and inshallah, I'll convert.
Inshallah, I wish that Allah guides you to the truth, inshallah. And just know that everyone struggles with this. Everyone who accepts Islam struggles with this. And especially, obviously, Christian, Eastern Orthodox, or just Eastern Christians, they're a lot more,
Yes.
holding on to the religion. I wouldn't say necessarily for like rational research reasons, but they're a lot more
No,
practicing.
it's more in
they're a
their
lot more
identity
practicing.
and all
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. You go to church, you would celebrate, but in reality, they don't really believe and read, and it's not that. So I completely understand. But just know that in the end, look, Allah is on your side in the end, and He can see you, and that everyone else struggle with this. Like I said, you probably, if you've seen the biography of the Prophet, the Prophet's uncle dying as a disbeliever while he is protecting him all his life, and he loved him, etc. These examples for us are for that reason, because we know that like this, we can be fought by our own family members. Muslim or not, your family can stop you from praying. Even they call themselves Muslims, that they forbid girls from wearing a hijab and praying and all of that. So shaitan can use anyone basically for his goal. So it was really a pleasure talking to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you for everything.
Very nice discussion. Thank you very much. All right, Justin. Bye bye. I'll see you perhaps another time. Ameen. Hey, Allah guide.
All right, this guy Justin was really, I liked him. It was Justin, right? Yes. Okay, Justin. Yeah, he's just a curious boy, and that's good. Muhammad Ali he just comes across as a good dude. Okay. Well, we are going to end this here. This was part 2. Hope you enjoyed. I've got another video of his that I'm going to do. If you have more of them, please. Like I say, this was requested, so if you have more from his channel, let me know. I know there's somebody that, I think it was this one. Was it this channel? He goes live like every Thursday, and I'm always working. And somebody was like, "You need to get on there. You need to go on there." I'm like, I'm always working. I'm never available. Can't really tell my work, hey, I gotta go do a YouTube thing during work. Gotta take an hour. I don't think they'd like that. All right, well, we're gonna end this here. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night.